its essence, right, Dust 514 is going to be a very familiar first-person shooter mechanic for a lot of gamers on PlayStation Network who have been, who've played Battlefield, who've played Call of Duty, who've played those sort of multiplayer experiences. One of the biggest differences, to your point, is the amount of flexibility, customization, all the options you have with the kind of character you want to play. Many shooters kind of force you into these archetype roles, right? If you're going to be a sniper, you're a guy with light armor who hides around and you're a glass cannon. Don't get hit because you're down. If you're a heavy, you're a guy running around in big heavy armor and you have a big gun, but you're slow as heck. Dust 514 allows you to change all of those ideas there. If you want to be a sniper who can take a couple of punches, just gear up in a heavy drop suit and you can load out that way. Or similarly, if you want to be a fast running guy who has that heavy machine gun, you won't be as fast as the sniper right next to you, but you can still play the game that way. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try and take you into some of these ideas here and show you some of the well, not a good start here for our for the good guys apparently, but we're going to go ahead and show you here what some of those things look like in the UI in terms of the number of options that you have, the loadouts you can build, the skills that you learn to unlock certain equipment. Dust 514 is a shooter where you really do need to earn your way up to the highest levels of equipment, the best tiers of drop suits, the best vehicles and things like that. And driving a vehicle or using a weapon you're not perfectly skilled with can be a dangerous event to do on the battlefield.
Now this is interesting here, just let's touch on this really quick. It's sort of the pre-game lobby, but you guys have a different take. This is where you can do a lot of this customization you were talking about.
Absolutely, this is your mercenary quarters. It's analogous to the captain's quarters that we have in our PC MMORPG EVE Online. And it's sort of your single player lobby where you can gear up as much as you want to. And what you're seeing here is going through a number of different drop suit fitting screens. So you got a heavy armor there, you got kind of your typical frontline sort of armor with an assault rifle. Here's a guy with an anti-vehicle weapon, there's your sniper. There's a bunch of different ways to do this, but each of these things has different characteristics to it and certain amount of CPU horsepower that it needs or a certain amount of just overall power that something needs. And you as a gear fiend, as a self-admitted one, you're going to be tweaking these things. And as you can kind of see here on the right, there's just this huge amount of statistics. And now you don't have to get all into this level of detail if you don't want to. At the end of the day, if what you're looking for is a 10-minute death match, pick up a gamepad or a move and jump into the game and shoot a few guys in the head, that's an easy thing to do with Dust 514. You'll be doing it for free and you won't be disappointed. But if you are looking for that deeper rabbit hole, we have an immense amount of customization options in gear, in drop suits, in vehicles, in weapons.
And here we go. Let's take a look at these weapons. I mean, last time I played the game, there was laser rifles, shotgun. I mean, of course you got your submachine guns, your shotguns, your pistols and stuff, but you also have forge guns,
yes,
swarm launchers, mass drivers, laser rifles, a lot of variety. Tell me about some of these more exotic weapons.
Yeah, well, so keep in mind that Dust 514 is set firmly in and connected to the EVE Online universe, right? We're doing things here with Sony that cannot be done on any other platform in the world. And part of the connection between Dust and EVE is making sure that these things work together in one harmonious economy. So the things that you see in Dust do reflect the state of the EVE universe, which is tens of thousands of years in our future. And yet, the essence of man-to-man infantry-based combat is still pretty much that sort of honest infantryman grunt work game. But the weapons that you see are very different, right? We have swarm launchers. These are things that you're going to want to use against larger groups of armor. We have well, yeah, we're not seeing those right now. We're going to jump right into the gameplay here, and you'll get to see some of this stuff in action. But the grenades, the mines, all those kinds of things that you're looking for. Now, as you go through the game, you will level up in your skills much like you do in EVE Online, and EVE players will be familiar with that sort of setup. You don't have to know it very well because we'll take you through it very deeply in Dust 514. But as you earn more skill points and unlock the ability to use more weapons and armor, you're going to want to tweak things just a bit. And you'll want to try that kind of a grenade or that kind of a mine or that kind of a rifle with this kind of a battle. You and your friends will start teaming up together and be like, all right, we're going to take this objective on this planet. We're going to need to have this kind of a guy here and this kind of a guy here and this kind of a guy here. And it adds a much deeper level of strategy to a first-person shooter.
Now, it looks like we're deploying here. And
we are.
And obviously, the environments look huge, especially when you get down on the ground here. Tell me about how it's a bit of a sandbox style, very open-ended.
Totally.
It's not like a couple corridors and the best man wins.
Yeah.
This is like a bigger scale game set on a huge planet.
Well, and this in fact is a new map from when we last talked to you guys at the Sony event in New York a few months ago. A much larger map here. These are the kinds of maps where we will be able to host 24 on 24 battles. These are the largest we've announced so far. And we've got all this running now on a new map with higher level of textures and resolutions than what we've seen over, again, it is a game in continuous development, it's a live service, and a lot of these improvements are continuing along the way. And so what you have here, right, is typical sort of, again, moment-to-moment experience, a lot of what Battlefield and Call of Duty kind of play like. A lot of different weapons, a lot of different vehicles. And if you see we just released a trailer yesterday where people can see a lot of that actual in-game
PlayStation
footage.
blog, that's got the trailer, check it out.
Absolutely. And so what you do now is you have the ability here, what we're doing is we're actually going to start trying to summon a vehicle. Apparently we can't right now in this location, but we'll get you one. And with that, right, you have the ability now to, again, you could be a guy who's a little more specialized with particular vehicles. You could be a guy who's a little more specialized on taking down vehicles. A lot of different options in the gameplay. And when you talk about sandbox, right, the reason why sandbox is such a meaningful term to us, of course, is sandbox is really what EVE Online really was all about. The idea that we don't have a bunch of developers writing stories and creating dungeons and quests and things like that. The players are doing this. We just build tools and we provide people the ability to tell their own stories in the EVE universe. Now, with Dust 514, we're opening that mechanic up to the PlayStation audience.
Let's talk a little bit about that tie-in there to EVE Online, because there's some very interesting stuff, and I thought it was great that you mentioned that this players sort of tell the story in EVE Online. I mean, I was reading something not long ago about how one player amassed all these allies and they were attacking like the main store space station.
That's exactly right.
And that's incredible. And you guys are like, bring it on. Let's see what happens. That's awesome. But that world is going to tie into Dust 514. Explain how that's going to work.
Yeah, well, let's start from the beginning. It is one universe. And so when you are playing in these battles on Dust 514, you are doing your battle on your PlayStation 3. But the information about that battle, the wins and the losses, the economic impacts, you bought items in-game with your in-game currency or your virtual currency you pay real-world money for, you've struck alliances with people in EVE, in Dust, and things like that. All the impact of that does mirror back into the EVE Online universe. And unlike other MMOs, EVE is a game that is played on one single shard. Everyone in the world that is playing EVE Online is playing it together. There's never this experience of, oh, you and I find out we both play EVE, but we can't actually play together because we're on different shards or something like that. That's not the case in EVE Online. And in the same spirit, everyone playing Dust 514 is playing with everyone in EVE Online, with hundreds of thousands of subscribers who are already in that game. Now, to your point, the event that you're talking about here was a fairly recent one in EVE, the Burn Jita event, where one particular notorious alliance, the Goon Swarm, gathered up people to prevent other EVE players from being able to easily trade at the main trade hub in the EVE Online universe, Jita.
Totally unscripted, just a random event or an event that was just put together, almost like an emergent gameplay.
It absolutely was emergent, but it absolutely was not random.
Yeah.
It was not something that anybody at CCP orchestrated.
Yeah.
It was something that our players said, you know what? We in Goon Swarm are going to do this. We are going to corner the market on particular resources in the Jita trade hub. We're going to prevent other people from trading. We're going to corner the market. We're going to drive prices. We're going to be very aggressive on this. These are things that only happen in a game like EVE. And part of why we have made this conscious decision to bring a first-person shooter to the PlayStation is to allow these people who are very familiar with first-person shooter mechanics and have been playing on the consoles for years with their clans, with their friends. And I've always looked at that, again, you hear these stories about the EVE universe. How does that really happen? How can games do that? It's so different, it's so emergent, it's not scripted. Now, all of you people playing shooters are going to have a chance to write your own stories in that same mechanic. You will be a Dust clan, a clan of mercenaries doing missions on behalf of, or perhaps in counter purposes to, an EVE corporation.
So it's like proxy wars being fought via Dust 514 for the EVE Online universe.
That's exactly what it's like. So imagine I'm a corporation in EVE, and I have an enemy corporation that I'm at war with. And there is a particular resource that I realize if I can stop that resource flow to our enemy corporation, I can get a momentary advantage in the war. Take a look into the Dust universe. You see particular planets that your enemy corporation is harvesting resources from, and they've got Dust clans protecting those planets. You go out and hire mercenaries of your own in Dust 514 to go and kick those other mercenaries off of those planets, beat them in combat, seize that terrain for yourself, and bring those resources back to yourself to further your corporation versus corporation war.
So the game really never ends. This isn't just sort of isolated team death matches where you get a couple of XP. This is like a larger tale that you're essentially scripting as you play.
Absolutely, and it really is important that, you know, there is no requirement that you as a shooter need to understand all of this and need to take part of it. We think you're going to like it when you do. But the rabbit hole just goes as deep as you choose to go into it, right? If all you're looking for is pick up the controller, have a 10-minute death match, no problem. But we do have people in EVE Online who've been playing this game for 9 years. And the reason why it happens, and the reason why EVE is unique in our industry of MMOs and that it grows every single year, is because of these sorts of things, right? Once you get into this, you become part of the story. You are a historical figure in the EVE universe, and now as a Dust 514 mercenary, you can have that opportunity as well to become part of the history of EVE, to be written in the lore of what has happened in this universe. And what we find is some people, when they start playing and they get into this and they realize these are real people I'm fighting against, that I'm allying with, you know, it's like nothing else in the business. And, you know, we always joke about how many of these stories, you know, they begin with a simple little death match and they end with people meeting in real life, going to Iceland to FanFest and getting a tattoo. And it doesn't have to end that way, but many stories do. It is that deep a game.
That's awesome. And I mean, I think one detail that caught a lot of people's attention is the fact that Dust 514 is going to be free to play. Talk about that a little bit, how that's going to work.
Absolutely.
I can play for free.
You absolutely can. I mean, we take a lot of inspiration from what we've seen with other games on the PC that have been free to play. You know, a game like a League of Legends, like a World of Tanks, where at the end of the day, if all you want to do is play through the moment-to-moment experience and not pay a nickel, you absolutely can do that. And first-person shooters are very much a skill-based genre, right? You know, I mean, the social contract that you need to have with your audience is that if you are a better shooter who is not spending money versus a worse shooter who's spending a lot of money, the better shooter should always win, and that is absolutely going to be the case in Dust 514. Where we think we're going to have a healthy microtransaction business is in things of customization and personalization, what we think of as side grades, right? The only way to really upgrade is to play the game, is to level up in the game, so to speak, unlock more skill points, get the ability to try out different configurations, new weapons, new vehicles, new armor. And if you choose, you do that all with your in-game currency, or you can buy virtual currency, which we call ARB, using PlayStation currency directly off of PSN. And that will allow you to buy a weapon that is, for example, similarly powered. It's a side grade, but it might give you a different flavor of what combat is like. Or there will be cosmetic items. There will be drop suits. There will be vehicles. There will be all these ways.
Tons of gear. Sounds like it's right up my alley. We're just about out of time. Where can people go to learn more about the beta that's coming to PSN June 29th?
Absolutely. Well, there's a bunch of places for it, right? Number one, like we said, we're live in the home space right now. We're really excited about what we're seeing with the home community. That is a great place right now to go and learn more about the beta and to secure an all-access beta key. The second place that we'll tell you is, you know, we love talking to a PlayStation blog, and we will continue doing that. We've had a lot of news there, and we're going to keep doing that. We also have our own dust514.com forums, and we'll have more information about these things there. But, you know, it's definitely, it is go time right now. I mean, we are on the cusp of launch. It's coming in 2012. We're here at E3. There's going to be tons and tons of news about this coming out in the coming weeks.
Great stuff, David. Thank you so much for coming by to show off Dust 514 beta coming June 29th.